it's interesting, your question about how do we go from like baby me who's just starting therapy for the first time and realizing I've got some major things I learned growing up about emotions that I now need to unlearn.
I got baggage.
We're not going to name names, but we learned some of that at home.
Right.
So how do I go from there to where I am now doing all of this emotional intelligence work in my professional life? I think of that actually as a convergence, because at the same time I was having really this crisis of self. I mean, I was suffering. I was having panic attacks every day. I was barely holding it together. I was just really struggling to handle the stress in my life, again, because I didn't have access to my emotional reality. And at the same time, you
didn't have access to your emotional reality.
There you go.
You didn't have access. It's there, it's yours, but you just didn't feel you had access. Wow.
I mean, it blew my mind.
Yeah, it's such a little thing to say. Yeah, it's a little thing to say, but I don't say.
Yeah, yeah. When I started doing this personal work, and my therapist pretty much right off the bat was like, okay, look, this panic that you're feeling, these like attacks that you're having where you can't get up, you can't do anything, you can barely breathe. What is happening is that you're having a feeling, but you're not having that feeling, right? Yeah. The feeling is there, you're not experiencing it. So that feeling is having you. Right? Like that feeling is going to go somewhere. It's going to do something. It doesn't just disappear if we ignore it.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. And so there I am. And at the same time, I was making a career shift, moving into a learning and development role where I was tasked with doing all kinds of different learning within the organization, training on anywhere from product knowledge to doing big leadership development programming. And those two things at that time felt completely disconnected to me. And so for a while, I sort of went along and like, okay, I'm doing all this personal healing in my life, and I'm doing all of this leadership development work. I'm falling in love with the learning and development space and learning how to be a good consultant and a good solution builder for the organizations I work with. And the more time I spent with leaders, the more I built my coaching skill, the more I built my skill as a facilitator, the more time I spent just listening to these leaders I was working with about what was going on for them and what their challenges were, the more it just clicked again and again and again for me that like, okay, what's missing is this very human experience that we are not allowing ourselves to bring into the leadership sphere. And when you talk to leaders who have fully embraced their emotional experience, how to express their emotions, their full emotional reality, and are leveraging that emotional intelligence in their leadership, they're having a very different experience as leaders than those who are showing up thinking, I've got to be buttoned down. I can never let anybody see me sweat. I can't express what's going on. Yeah. Those folks are having a really tough time comparatively. Yeah. And so it's been like my own personal work and then my leadership development work and this moment of like, oh, this is all about EQ. And then in the middle of that, I was certified to administer an assessment of emotional intelligence and started using that with my clients. And that was like, okay, great. I'm ready to quit my day job. Let's go. Let's do this.